Hello, my dear ones. The following is an excerpt from my podcast with Galit from Astrologer Galit Raiman. We talk about the Saturn return, how to navigate it, what it means. And trust me, if you don't know what your Saturn return is, you want to know this. You want to know how to navigate this tumultuous but really enriching time in your life. And so the following is just a little segment of that. If you want to hear the whole podcast, you can check it out below. Let me know if you are currently going through your Saturn return. Saturn right now is in Aquarius. So if your Saturn is in Aquarius, then you are going through your first or second or maybe even third Saturn return if you're watching this channel. I know that a lot of you are with me starting the Saturn return, and this is a very important time in our development as human beings and our expansion as human beings. And Galit really sheds a light on that. Make sure that you support her. I will link her information down below. I'd love to know what you think about this podcast, and enjoy this segment.
It really makes a difference to know your ascendant. I would say the three big ones are your ascendant sign, your moon sign, and your sun sign. Saturn is the teacher. We are all born with Saturn somewhere in our chart. And that area is going to be kind of challenging because Saturn will demand results. That's another Saturnian word. And so when we are born, Saturn is in that specific place. And it will take Saturn 29 to 29 and a half years to go back to its place at birth. And each time Saturn will go through a house, which is a certain department of life in the astrological chart, it will challenge you in that department, whether it's going to be how we look, what our physical body is, the work that we do, the money, our friends, relationship, and so forth. So you're born, you're 0 years old. And when you come to about 28 to 30 years old, Saturn makes a full return around your chart. It kind of challenged you in each department. And now that it's back, it's saying, wow, great, you've done a whole round. How do you feel right now? And you, Leeor, and your generation that are born between 91 to 94 are all experiencing that. It's a very unsettling state because Saturn wants to see what you've done and what you're going to do with it. So you have to show up and say, You know what? In this department, I did okay. In this, I didn't. And it's a challenging time. What am I going to do from now on? And I don't know if you personally feel it, but you become more mature at that time.
Totally. Right. So you were looking at my chart and helping me get through something last week. And I loved when you said that, when you explained to me that, Saturn's been going through your chart, and every time it goes into a different house into a different house, you learn something new where it touches that. And then now that it's coming back into your chart all these years later, I'm 28. So I'm just starting the Saturn return, right? Somewhere in the next couple of years, I guess I'm starting it.
Takes enough years kind of for
right.
that stuff, right?
So yeah. And a lot of my community are going to be either, starting it in a few years or getting out of it, or maybe some of them are about to be in their second one, right? Because around 54, you're in your second Saturn return.
58 to 60, sort of.
Okay, 58. Okay, so later in your later 50s.
But my generation, we both share the same Saturn. You have Saturn in Aquarius, and I have Saturn in Aquarius. So
that's amazing.
We're both experiencing a Saturn return on a different level because we're at different stages.
So every 29 years or so, you're going to have another return. And then so all these different planets do returns, but some of them do shorter ones, like Venus is probably
2 years.
2 years. So Venus.
Excuse me, Venus is a year. Mars is a 2-year cycle. But then Pluto is a 248 years. So we're not having Pluto return.
Yeah. Isn't the US having its Pluto return or had its Pluto return recently, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're going through very Plutonian time. And last year, for example, Saturn met Pluto. Transiting Saturn met transiting Pluto. And the pandemic started. And that's very much such a symbolism for the pandemic because Saturn brings restrictions and Pluto bring extreme transformations, sometimes from the depth of hell. And
that's what it felt like.
That's what it felt like. But the good news is that Saturn is in Aquarius, and it moved away from Pluto in Capricorn. And Pluto in Capricorn is all about our old system, our old government. And Pluto has been cleaning this for quite a long time. It's a long cycle that break down the old and bring in the new. And Saturn moved into Aquarius. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because Aquarius, everybody heard about the age of Aquarius. And what does it mean, the age of Aquarius? It means that we are open to new ideas. We're open for radical changes. We're open to more advancement in technology, in medicine, obviously, because what happened with the pandemic. And Saturn will bring us to the realization of social justice, of caring for us as a whole, not just as individuals. Capricorn cares for us as individuals, me. But Aquarius is about us as a whole. And your generation that was born with Saturn in Aquarius is actually an amazing representative that's coming into age to affect society, to care for the greater good of all, which is beautiful.
Ooh, that is so beautiful. Oh, what a responsibility for our generation too.
Right? True, but you can do it because, 30 years ago, around when you were born, the internet was born, if you think about it.
Right.
Saturn was in Aquarius. Saturn brought that infrastructure, Saturn, that is different, Uranus, for communication, Uranus, for the greater good of all, Uranus. So we have this structure right now, and it was built through the last 30 years. Your generation brings social media, like what we're doing right now. This was unheard of a few years ago.
Over the airwaves, right? Like
over the airwaves, Aquarius. And so your generation brings the opportunity for anyone to be heard, which is an amazing opportunity.
It's beautiful.
And you can bring many points of views.
For the people, just for everybody who's such a beginner like I am, I just, to sum that up. So everything has a birth chart, right? Everything, like what Galit was just explaining, was the birth of the US has a specific time and date, and you can see the birth chart for that. And Galit has looked at birth charts of relationships, of new businesses, right? Everything has a birth chart.
Correct.
And so now to bring it back to our Saturn return, and it's I didn't know that your Saturn is also in Aquarius. So that's so how does a person know if and when exactly they begin their personal Saturn return? Is it the same for all of us, or do each one of us have a specific time period within that 3-year or whatever long period where we go through this?
Good question. You were born and your Saturn, let's say, was at 12 degree Aquarius, which I actually know that it was. My Saturn many years ago is at 19 degrees Aquarius. Somebody else's Saturn may be at 27 degrees Aquarius. Right. What Saturn does, it takes Saturn about 2.5 years to go through a sign. So in the beginning, it enters a sign, entered Aquarius a year ago, December 2020, I think it entered Aquarius. Now, it took Saturn from December 2020 till now to get to 12 degrees Aquarius. It's a long time. In the meantime, it was holding on different degrees in Aquarius. So other people, maybe Saturn already came for them. Maybe they were born with 6 degrees Aquarius. So you see, it takes everybody a different timing according to their personal degree. One more thing, Saturn goes retrograde, like people know Mercury retrograde, but some planets go retrograde. So what Saturn does, it goes into Aquarius. It will go, let's say, until 12 degrees Aquarius, and then it will station direct for, let's say, a few weeks. It would just stay there for a certain amount of time, and then it will look like it's going backwards, all the way back to 6 degrees Aquarius, and come back. So the first time it will sensitize your... Remember that we talked that
so and so you get a break when it kind of goes retrograde, and then it comes back for you, right? That's what kind of happens.
Correct. So the first time it would show up and say, hey, Leeor, this is what you need to work on. And you say, oh my God, all this is coming up for me. And it will stay there for a month or two, and this will be chaos, and you will feel out of balance because you've been called to show up results. And you say, hey, I'm not ready. So it goes retrograde. And you kind of say, oh, it went away. I'm good. When it comes back, you look at this same issue in a different perspective because you already dealt with it on a certain level the first time it was around, correct?
Right.
So you look at that in a different way. You say, you know what? Yeah, I have to clean up here, or I have to mature here, or I have to, whatever it is, I have to change job. I want to get married. I want to have babies. I want to move to a different country.
So that was going to be my next question. What usually happens in that first Saturn return? It is things like that are life-changing and give you responsibility, right? Like new baby, new relationship, new career, movie. Is that usually what happens around that time?
If you think about your life is goes in cycles. And there is a movement from 0 to 7 years old. You think you're the only person in the world. From 7 to 14, you discover, hey, there are other people in the world. 14 is this awkward age where hormones are starting, and you say, hey, maybe relationship is a good thing. So you start being social. So that's 14 to 21. 21 is a major age because you realize that it's not enough to be social and with other people. You also want to take a place in the world as a general thing. You want to show up and contribute what you have to contribute, your special gift to the world. By the time you're 29 or your age, 28 to 30, you've done those quadrants, I would call them. And now you say, okay, I've done this, this, and this. Where am I going with this? It's time to plan ahead. I'm almost 30. What do I want from life? Do I want a family? Do I want to become a career person? Where do I want to live? Those are major questions.
Really big questions. And you know what I notice is that so many people around this time get into relationships. And I'm curious if the Saturn, let's say people like a couple was got married outside of their Saturn return, maybe around 25, 26, and both experience big life changes when the Saturn return comes in. Do you see that a lot where Saturn kind of either makes or breaks relationships in that way?
Totally. Because maybe they just rushed into it in their youngest 20s and, lust and love and all this. And suddenly they realize that they don't even share the same value system, that they don't share the same idea for life, that they want different things from life. So Saturn will probably break it.
Will show that, right? Or it could be that if they are maybe into self-development in astrology, they can know, oh, we're going through this huge stage in our lives right now. We're going to be up-leveling. We're going to be learning about each other. Let's maybe find an astrologer or work together through this to know how to go through our Saturn return together and become stronger from it. That's why I love astrology, right?